wedding.
Yeah. Apollo!
There's a tiny little dog in the background. There he
Apollo! Is right there.
Riot! Apollo? Yep. He's stuck in here with me now, so he'll pop up from time to time.
Yeah, it wasn't, I mean, the wedding was only Sunday, but my mother had gotten us rooms at the hotel where they were doing the rehearsal dinner and the after party after the wedding. And we just sort of were there for the weekend. I'll put it this way. We were up there until Monday, and I could have used another day off of work after that. So,
I had a largely vacation-ish sort of weekend. The food truck only worked on Saturday, so I had Friday and Sunday off. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it was nice. It was mostly due to the weather.
Yeah, the weather was great.
Yeah, the weather was fantastic. But speaking of the food truck, before we got to like the actual show stuff, the Melting Truck is up for Best Food Truck in Connecticut by CT Magazine, and I'm going to post the link in the chat. And everyone listening should go and vote for the Melting Truck for Best Food Truck in Connecticut.
In case you didn't know, we were in Connecticut. Let's make it clear.
We're in Connecticut. We're not one of those, I don't know, Massachusetts fucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Keith. Spoiler alert. He lives in Massachusetts now.
Oh, he does?
Yes.
I was unaware of that. I thought he was still in Waterbury.
Nope. So, so the Melting Truck, vote for it, Best Food Truck in CT. And while you're on the interwebs doing stuff, like and share Speaking from the Center on all your various social medias, and go to patreon.com/SFTC and become a patron like Jenna, who's in the chat. She's one of our producers, and I think we nailed down a date for her to be on the show.
Oh, yeah?
July 28th.
Cool.
So she'll be on the show July 28th. It's going to be whatever she wants to talk about, so it'll be cool.
Neat.
Yeah. Patreon.com/SFTC. We got a Twitch. The Twitch is going there. You can watch us on the Twitch.
Yeah.
And the YouTubes.
Yeah.
And the Facebooks all at the same time.
Woo!
Yeah. So let's get on to the show. This show. We've done this show kind of before, but I feel like it needs a little bit of updating. Because
I was thinking about this because, yeah, we have definitely talked about this before. And it seems like every time we do a new iteration of the show, we come around to this topic. But I think it's interesting because I think whether or not we're doing Speaking from the Center is a metric for whether or not things are stable in America or not. When things are stable, we're on the air and we're doing stuff and we're like, yeah, we can roll with this. Here are some improvements. When shit goes off the rail, we're like, we're out. We can't. So, like, it's a good sign that America's got some stability back because we're able to do this again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can mentally tolerate doing the show. I think that's what it is. Like the whole Trump era was like, I can't even fathom like doing the show on a weekly basis because Trump made so much news every single day.
Yeah.
That it would just be impossible. It would just be like, we'd come on the air and be like, Trump said dumb shit that he lied about and he's never gonna hear anything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, all the stuff during the pandemic would have been like, oh, Trump lied about mask wearing or Trump lied about vaccines.
Oh my God. Could you imagine trying to do that and keep up with all his bullshit during the pandemic?
Think for a moment. Imagine that we did a show the week that he said that you should inject bleach into your body to get rid of the coronavirus.
I don't.
It would just be like staring at the screen saying, really? Really?
I mean, yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that we didn't, because it would just be us going, well, we're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, we do that now.
Imagine doing it a year ago, though, when it was
would have
like
been every day. It would have been every day. Well, we're fucked. Like, we go to pretty dark places, and this is the revamped, streamlined, hour-long show with a super tight focus, and we'd be fucked. We'd be done for.
No, every week would be like, well, America's ending now because the president is an insane person.
Yeah. No. No, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to.
It was just traumatic. And the problem with a president like Trump and democracy in general is that everybody gets a vote.
Yeah.
And
we're
going to talk about different types of voting systems, and I still wonder if that would be better or worse, because you got to think about the people who are voting in these things,
Yeah. Because some of them just, I mean, as a candidate, going out and meeting voters, it's a trying experience sometimes, because you're like, what do you actually want? Do you know what you want?
So I already know the answer to that, and I'll let you in on that. And the answer is no.
I don't know if I've told this story on the air, but once I talked to a voter, and I asked her, I was running for it was like town council in Shelton, and I asked her, like, what are you looking for out of, like, the town and all that? And she said that she did not want to pay taxes for education. And I was like, okay, why not? And she's like, because there's too much, they're doing too much with the kids. School should just be reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that's it.
And don't forget prayer.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, what makes you think that? She's like, they don't need all these sciences and music and art and all that. That's extra.
The best case to be made against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter.
And a lot of campaigning is trying to educate voters. And I'm not saying that the voters, are dumb or anything, but a lot of campaigning is spent educating voters on the issues that you want to present. And it is sometimes met with limited success.
Yeah, well, people rarely ever, nowadays anyway, you can't really educate them. Unless you can get to them with some snappy clickbait Facebook post, that ain't happening.
Wait till we get a Ted Cruz presidency.
I mean, that'll be great. What are you talking about? That will be the genuine end of America. The Zodiac Killer will be in the highest office of the land and capable of executing his master plan, which is to kill more people than Hitler.
I want you to know that I permanently have that as a banner. That Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
It's just true. But yeah, Ted Cruz is president. I mean, he and most of the Republican Party have been so, I don't know, taken over by the Trump ideology that it'd be bad.
The word for the Trump ideology is national populism.
National populism does not sound like a good thing.
No, it's not. but it has a name. We don't have to call it Trumpism or Trump's ideology. It's national populism.
So Nolan, let's talk about voting.
It doesn't work. Don't do it.
A message brought to you by Nolan.
Voting doesn't work, and neither should you.
So America has a very basic kind of voting system. It is known as first past the post.
Yep.
Where the candidate with the most votes wins.
Yep. It is the best system ever, as it was given to us by the founding fathers, and beautiful cawing eagles came down from heaven and gave it to them.
And baby Jesus.
Yes, always the baby Jesus.
And this system works in that you don't have to have necessarily more than 50% of the vote. You just have to be the candidate with the most votes if there's more than two candidates in the race.
Yeah.
And that is how most of our elections are run. I would say like 90%.
Yeah, almost all of them, as a matter of fact.
There are a few states where if neither candidate gets 50% plus one votes, then they have a runoff between the two highest candidates, and then they baby Jesus for president.
Yep.
But that's basically it. Like those are the only, and those aren't for like national elections. Those are more for like state elections.
Yeah, the ones that don't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a bad system because all you need is 50 plus 1.
Yeah.
Right? That's not 51%.
Yeah, it's 50% plus one vote.
Plus one vote.
Yep.
You win.
Yep.
The other guy who has the 50% minus one vote, he loses.
I mean, in some cases, he can call for a recount and see if that vote was a lie. But
oh, well, that's standard procedure since the freaking Bush election in 2000. Now everybody calls for a recount.
Yeah, and a lot of states have an automatic recount if it's within 1%. Because they know it's going to get challenged anyway. So
not only do you automatically recount now, but now you can just claim it's fake loud enough and long enough and have your, black shirts storm the Capitol.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, insurrection.
It's now viable. It's out there. It's a viable political option now.
It is. And the state Republicans from a lot of states are like, trying to codify that into law.
Yeah, that if you storm the Capitol and you can overturn elections.
Yeah, it's not that, none of that is good.
Nope.
None of that is cool. And they're taking away power from secretaries of state who are usually in charge of elections and giving that to the legislators.
Because the legislators will do it with a bias and not be impartial.
Yeah. That is also a problem.
What?
I think.
How could that be a problem?
Oh, I don't know, but
wait a minute. Legislators are elected by their constituents, so isn't that just an extension of the will of the people, Tim?
I don't think so. If those legislators have the power to overturn the election based on whoever the majority is.
Well, if they're the majority, isn't that just the will of the people? Because they're the majority already.
But if the people are voting them out and they overturn that election, isn't that against the will of the people?
Not if the people who are in the majority say it's not.
Well, we have a problem there.
That's not a problem.
I think that's a problem on a fundamental level. You're sort of eroding democracy at that point.
Democracy is freedom, Tim. Freedom to do whatever we want. Not you and me, but other people.
Exactly. It's freedom for legislators and majorities and state houses to do whatever they want.
I mean, if they're the majorities, though, right? Right? Isn't that how that works?
I guess.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It's exceedingly dangerous and sketchy.
And that's sort of the reason I wanted to revisit this topic for the show because there's been a lot of changes since the 2020 election on basically what people think of elections and what people think of voting, because there is a lot of, if I don't win, then the election is rigged and it's fraud. And
Well, yeah.
that's not a good mentality for maintaining democracy.
No.
No.
Don't you get it? This is a great way to maintain the status quo and change nothing. Because if you lose, you don't have to admit to have lost. You can just say it was rigged or stolen.
Yeah, but that diminishes the next election. That's what's going to happen. And it's what's already happening.
I mean, yeah, Tim, that's where we've been headed. Like, society as a whole is already in a place where you don't ever have to be wrong about anything. Like, remember we did that episode a couple weeks back with Mikey?
Yeah.
And his epic takedown of crazy. Yeah. What did he fucking accomplish with that?
It's just an angry guy on the internet, really.
Right. You think that changed that guy's opinion?
No, it probably had the opposite effect. It probably like entrenched his position.
So we're already there socially. That it's taken this long to overtake and infect our politics is quite frankly impressive.
Well, it takes a long time for the money to really seep in.
That's true. That is true.
So let's talk about a thing that a few states and even New York City is trying to do, which is ranked choice voting.
What could go wrong?
Well, if you don't know how to run elections, a lot can go wrong. But the city of New York and the state of Maine have instituted ranked choice voting in their elections. Maine had done it well for a couple of years. They even did the 2020 presidential election with ranked choice voting.
Yep.
And they were very successful at it, even though the Republicans in the state say it's a Democratic ploy to steal elections.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
What else could it be?
Yeah.
Anything that more accurately represents a direct democracy takes away from the power of those elites and the political caste. They can't have that.
I mean, I'll say it. The Democrats are trying to rig elections for the people. They want the people to actually have a say in what goes on.
No. They're trying to rig them for themselves.
That's true.
People don't want free and fair elections, Tim. Okay, they want safe the political caste wants safe elections.
I mean, that's the entire reason gerrymandering exists.
Well, yeah, and that's why they do it, because it's easier. If we can guarantee our elections every year, why not?
Yeah. So ranked choice voting, the way it works is instead of voting for one candidate, let's say you have 5 candidates running for a position on the ballot, and instead of voting for just one of them, you rank them in 1 to 5, 1 being your top choice, 5 being your bottom choice. And when it comes time to count the votes, they do it in rounds. And the candidate with the least amount of votes gets dropped in the first round. And then whoever voted for them, their second choice, then gets added to the other candidates until only 2 candidates is left. And one of them has a 50% or more majority.
Right.
And it is an interesting system. And I think Maine has demonstrated that you can do it successfully, even though I can't imagine they have a ton of candidates in Maine.
Well, it's Maine, so there aren't a ton of people to begin with.
But it, strangely enough, encourages candidates to work together. So there were commercials in Maine where some of the candidates were like, oh, vote for me as number 1 and then vote for this person as number 2. And that way it'll just be us at the end. And it's this like weird sort of system where the candidates kind of have to work together to get the most votes.
Imagine that.
I know.
A system that encourages people to coordinate, cooperate.
Yeah. And then we have New York City, who just used ranked choice voting for the first time in their mayoral primary elections.
And everything went fine forever.
And they cocked it up. They cocked it up good.
Yeah. Not great.
So in the Democratic primary, there were about 1 million candidates. Andrew Yang was one of them. And he did not fare well.
No. Well, he's Asian, and we had a pandemic that came from China.
So what
and
happened,
people are stupid.
What happened is the New York Council of Electors, or whatever they're called, accidentally put in the sample ballots they were using to test the system into the actual primary election.
Right.
And it was about 130,000 votes that were just in there for no reason. So when they put out the numbers, a few of the candidates were like, hey, there's more votes than there should be. Did people vote twice? What happened? And their board of elections was like, we fucked up. I'm sorry. We'll take that down. And they're like, give us a week and we'll fix it. But all the candidates in the Democratic side were rather upset because it made the election.
They thought they did better than they actually did.
Yeah, the election for some of them went really well, and then all their votes got taken away.
Yeah, well, maybe they shouldn't just let any old intern.
Yeah, and apparently it was the problem that the board that runs their elections is either elected people or appointed people who don't have enough experience to implement a new voting system. And the state of New York was like, that seems like a problem. Let's fix it. So they started passing a law saying that people doing this should probably be experienced in doing this and be professionals instead of just random people off the street.
How'd that go? Did they pass it?
I believe they are currently passing it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. A legislative branch that can actually do something. That's
I
incredible.
know.
It's incredible.
I know. Did we talk about Connecticut legalizing pot on the show?
I don't remember.
If we didn't, Connecticut legalized pot.
It might be because of all the weed we've been smoking since it was legalized. Just so much dope.
But yeah, when you said legislators doing stuff, I was like, oh yeah, our legislature did something.
Yeah, we legalized weed, a day late and a dollar short, but what the hell? Why not?
Well, we don't want everyone going to Massachusetts to get their pot, I guess.
Right. Why not make it legal here so the people in New York who can buy it legally already can drive up to their local and never leave their state? Like, this would have been great to do before New York.
Yeah.
For once.
No,
now we're just going to ruin the markets for Massachusetts and New York.
Yeah, no, we're also way behind California. Weren't they one of the first?
California is on the other side of the country. They don't count.
So yeah, New York cocked up a primary election for mayor of the country's largest city. Good job, New York City. Good job.
I mean, that isn't New York just a cavalcade of cock-ups? Like, isn't that sort of their standard operating procedure?
Yeah.
Like, remember when they tried to put in that tax on big sodas?
Yeah. It pissed so many people off.
Right. And this is a blue state that should be all about the healthy living, free healthcare thing. But nope. Don't you tell me how to drink soda or whatever the protest slogan was. I doubt it was that because that's not particularly catchy, but hey.
The best part of all of this was Mayor Bill de Blasio trying to explain to everyone how ranked choice voting works. And
do we have a
I'm gonna try and share this.
Oh boy. Brace yourselves.
It may or may not work. I don't know.
Might work, but we might not be able to hear it.
Come on, New York Times, or was this the New York Post? Load, you bastard.
Back to you with live coverage of this thing from days ago.
Exactly.
In the event that it ever loads.
Cool. All right, I'll try and find this, but basically, what de Blasio was doing was explaining how ranked choice voting works using pizza toppings. And he has some really weird choices in favorite pizza toppings. One of them is olive, which you bastard. Olives, really? And his other was like green peppers, and it's like, why would that be at the top of your list? Like, he didn't go anywhere controversial like pineapple, because I know that's like a big.
Are you talking about pizza toppings?
Yeah. Nolan, what's your favorite pizza topping?
Oh God, plain. I love me some plain sprinkled on the top, a little extra side of plain.
Why plain?
Because plain isn't plain, is it? Otherwise, I'd be eating bread with tomato paste on it. Plain means cheese, and cheese is good. Lots and lots of cheese.
See, you got to go like something like pepperoni.
No, I don't like pepperoni.
No pepperoni.
Meatball, if I had to put something on it.
Meatball? Okay, meatball's not too bad.
And it depends on how they do it. Because some people just break the meatball up over it and some like slice the giant meatball on it. Either way is fine by me. I don't care. As long as there's cheese on it. Again, that's
really all that matters.
That's the best part of the pizza.
All right, I think I got it now. Can you hear it?
Not even a little. Although it looks like somebody's having an aneurysm in the top right corner.
So he's using a list of pizza toppings to explain ranked choice voting. Maybe this is why they got it wrong.
Why don't we have sound?
I don't know why there's no sound.
I mean, right now it just kind of looks like a really bad SNL skit, which is basically every SNL skit. But
doesn't that explain de Blasio pretty perfectly too?
Yeah. It's a shame that SNL is so full of liberals. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of jokes to be made here.
All right, let me pause this. All right, so what he's trying to articulate is what his choices would be for candidates and how you vote on a ballot like this. And ranked choice voting is a good system if you have a bunch of candidates and you need to sort of streamline the process a little bit and have a majority vote for a candidate instead of just a plurality. Because the other way around, if it was those 7 candidates or whatever, and there was no runoff, it would just be whoever got the most votes. Which is not good because it could be down to like 20% getting the most votes.
Yeah.
And then that would not be a majority of people. That would be a minority. And that's what George Washington warned us about.
Well, George Washington warned us about a lot of stuff. And we didn't listen.
And we chose to ignore him.
And we probably shouldn't have. But the funny part is nowadays it's okay to have ignored him because he had slaves.
Well, I mean, they all had slaves back then.
Right. So we can ignore all of them.
I mean, so, you know,
so democracy is a sham, Tim. It doesn't work.
I'm not part of the movement that, you know, all of our founding fathers were terrible people because they owned slaves. Owning slaves was not a good thing. They shouldn't have done it. But like George Washington was still the first president of the United States. And
I mean, yeah, that's one way to look at it.
and he was, of one of the more influential figures, same as Thomas Jefferson. Like, he wrote basically all of the, the stuff that the country makes its laws by. Same thing with Hamilton. They owned slaves. It was terrible that they owned slaves, but we cannot judge them by 2021 standards.
Oh, but that's all we judge things by now.
But they weren't alive in 2021.
But we are today, which means we can totally judge. Haven't you heard that hindsight is 2020?
Yeah.
And we're past that
last
date.
year.
And we're past that date. So now the fucking it's done. Judge them all by today's standards. You know, hell, a lot of them did never use a cell phone. Like, how stupid are they? They made people ride horses instead of drive cars. How stupid. How backwards.
I know. Hold on 1 second. I have to free a dog that just keeps whining.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now it's just me. Tim has left me alone with you all. I got nothing. I'm just here for the jokes. Tim's the guy who looks up and researches all this stuff, and I just kind of wing it. It's not entirely true. I am perfectly aware of the voting system we're allegedly discussing.
You're aware of what?
What? Nothing.
Okay.
I wasn't plotting anything while you were gone.
Yes, you were.
It's possible. You'll never be able to prove it. You'd have to go back and watch 30 minutes of the show, and we both know you're not going to do that.
Well, I mean, you gave me a timestamp. I don't got to watch the whole thing now.
Yeah, but you would have figured that out anyway.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't watch the show.
You're not going to do it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I don't watch the show.
You gave me a timestamp, right? You'd still involve you going back and watching the show, which we both know is not going to happen.
I mean, why would I watch a show? I'm already on the show. I don't need to watch the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. The fuck were we talking about?
Communism and why it works.
Okay. But
actually, it's funny. I learned how the voting system in the Soviet Union used to work. And quite frankly, it's sort of almost better.
Oh no.
No, it's not great. It's not great. But
okay.
In a way, in an unintended way, it's kind of genius.
Do tell.
So in the Soviet Union, the way voting would work is everybody got to vote.
So let's say. Yes, the Electoral College would fuck us anyway. Because it's not proportional.
Yeah, I suppose. But the Electoral College isn't a bad thing either in the current system.
All right, so let's think about it for a second. If you made presidential elections ranked choice voting by state, then I think you'd get almost the same result.
Yeah.
Because it would still depend on who actually won the state, unless there was like 5 candidates. And
well,
they're all doing well.
That's the problem, is once you put it in that sort of system, you would wind up with more candidates, which means that people from places that shouldn't be putting forward people to run anything.
Libertarian Party.
Libertarian nothing. Like half of like places like Tennessee and Alabama would wind up electing religious leaders.
That's true.
Like, this is the problem where everybody's like, we need more direct democracy. Do you know what some of the people in this country would vote for?
All right. And speaking of the founding fathers and direct democracy, they did not want any of that.
For good reason. This is the thing. People think we need to give people more say. We need to let them have more choice in this. And it's like, yeah, we did that with social media. And look how well that's worked out for us so far. Everybody has a say now. And now nobody ever has to be wrong.
If you think about it, you have way more freedom in voting right now than anyone did in 1800. Because the only people that were direct elected were the House of Representatives. The senators were appointed by the state legislators or whatever system the state came up with. They were not direct elected. Yeah. And the president still isn't direct elected. So the founding fathers didn't want you to vote for anyone except for your House of Representatives member because they figured if too many people were direct elected, it would all get fucked up.
Well, it also is a way that you have to, the balance in the system for the U.S. is supposed to be to protect majority from the tyranny of the minority.
Right.
But also to protect the minority from the tyranny of the majority.
Right.
It's supposed to cut both ways. So it kind of makes sense, sort of.
In a way.
But I just, you could, like, so that's the problem, right? Like, the more direct you give people the control, the more, okay, so Hobby Lobby, right? They took out full page ads in a bunch of newspapers across the country to run articles and advertisements saying that America should only ever be run by a Christian.
Oh, I saw that.
And these people have a fair amount of sway. And you want to give people who are under the sway of something like that more direct control and say in who runs this country. Let's stop and really think about that.
Yeah, I saw that. And as a college liberal, I was immediately outraged.
I mean, I saw that and went, yeah, no, that makes sense. Because there's a bunch of people who saw that and went, yeah.
Yeah.
And you want to let those people have a greater influence on things. Like,
I saw that and was like, what? No, that's so bad.
Yeah, there are people who watch A Handmaid's Tale and go, man, America could be so much better that way. Like, it's not a dystopian nightmare. It's like a hopeful future.
Yeah. And there's some people that watch that and realize that it's a terrifying future.
Right. No, well, that's what you're supposed to see. You're supposed to watch it and go, wow, what a terrible dystopian future. But there are a lot of people who watch it and go, well, America would just be so much better if we were religious like that.
I know.
If America was a theocracy.
Some people claim it is anyway.
It's not.
I know. But they say that, separation of church and state is not something that's actually in the Constitution, which they're right. But if you look at the Federalist Papers, it's all over the place. And the Federalist Papers is what a lot of the laws and judiciary make up.
Yeah, but it's not in the Constitution, so it doesn't count.
And I mean, it's technically in the Constitution under the First Amendment, where you have freedom of religion. And the state shall not make law regarding religion. There you go.
Right. Well, that protects the religion from the clutches of the state. It does not protect the state from the clutches of religion.
It should.
It doesn't
should say.
It should. You're right, but there are no laity laws in America. Most Americans have never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's not just freedom of religion. That also provides freedom from religion. And laity laws are something America is desperately in need of.
All right. So I don't go down a dark road. Let's talk about European elections.
Okay. Well, they're all communists, so they don't count.
Well, let's talk about Great Britain.
Wait. I didn't finish with my story.
Oh, you're Soviet Union. Tell us about the communists.
So everybody got to vote in the Soviet Union. Everybody got to vote. Man, woman, and whatever the voting age restriction was, I forget, 20-something years like that, maybe. Everybody could vote. However, there was only one name on the ballot. Wait a minute. Here's where it gets... This everybody knew, right? Everybody knew this. Here's the interesting part, though. The candidates still had to secure 50% of the vote.
Okay.
So if a region or a territory or an oblast or whatever they were called put forward a candidate and the people didn't like them or didn't think they were going to get what they wanted out of them, they wouldn't go and vote. And if you didn't secure 50%, you were out. You could not, and they had to hold another election and bring up a new candidate.
So you're saying they had to get 50%. Is it 50% of the total population? They had to get that?
For whatever district they were running in.
Oh, okay. So they had to get 50% of whatever district they were running in, and if less than 50% of the people voted, they had to do another election.
If they did not secure 50% of the vote, then yeah, they were out, and a new candidate had to be put forward.
So it's not like 5 guys voted and whoever got 50% of those 5 guys won.
No, you had to win. You had to secure 50% of the vote of your region. If
That's
you did not
crazy.
secure 50% of the vote of your region, you didn't win the election.
You know what? In a weird way, that kind of would work.
Right? Like, you think about it, it's like that, because there was only one party, but you still had to get 50%. Think about if we did that in America.
Yeah.
Nobody would win elections.
Nobody.
Voter turnout is always so low. Well, sorry, you didn't win. Why? You didn't secure 50% of the vote.
I mean, that eliminates several barriers for entry for actually voting anyway, because if everyone has to vote, let's say there's voting is not a privilege or a right. It's something you have to do. Voting is mandated by the state, is what I'm assuming what happened in Soviet Union.
I don't
know.
I mean, possibly, but you could only ever vote for one candidate. So
Right.
You either went and voted or you didn't.
I see. So voting's not mandatory, but it's suggested really hard.
Yeah, go and vote.
Yeah. So let's say that would require automatic voter registration of everyone who's over 18 in the United States.
Yep.
You would be registered to vote. You don't need any sort of nonsense. You don't need to register to vote at the DMV. It just happens when you turn 18.
Yep.
That would make elections so much better.
And in order to win, whatever area you're running for election in, you need to win at least half the vote.
Yeah.
If you fail to secure that, you're out, and a new candidate needs to run.
Yeah.
And that's what Soviet citizens would do. They would get together and they would say, okay, here's what we want for our district. And they'd present it to the party leaders. And if they put them a candidate that the people believed would do what they asked, they'd all go out and vote. But if they didn't or didn't feel like they were being heard, they just wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that would solve some problems.
And then and think of the embarrassment when it's like our candidate only got 20% of the vote.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the drawing board. Who can we get to run that the people will like, that we actually, and can actually do these things?
So presidential elections aside, because those, you can probably get 50% of the vote out of a good portion of the country. Because turnout is usually between 50 and 60% nationwide. But state and local elections, no one would ever get elected.
No. Well, no, they'd have to actually start putting forward candidates and actually making changes. Like, that's the ingeniousness behind it.
If you disenfranchise the voters, then you just don't get elected in that case.
Yeah. No, it's so it works. It shouldn't, and it works for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's a terrible system under any other circumstance.
Yeah, it sounds like it shouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
But it sort of if it were implemented, it would force candidates to try and get as many people as possible to vote for them instead of just going for their base.
Yeah. Yeah. You would have to have broad appeal. You would have to find a way to compromise and work with others and all this stuff. And your name's the only name on the ballot, but if 52% of the state thinks you're an asshole, you're not getting elected.
Yeah.
Now, this is a system that sounds, man, that would be great, but it's also one that's rife for abuse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that whole talk about like religious leaders suddenly making it to the Senate and the House in bulk becomes even more likely.
Right, because they already have the ear of a lot of people.
Right. And they can get that and then be in there and,
It would end up being exploited.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. It's rife for corruption as well, which was the main problem in the Soviet Union. But in its description, that's actually kind of ingenious. Okay, well, you didn't get 50%. Sorry. You don't get elected. We need to run another election and come up with a new candidate.
All right, so let's talk about Great Britain.
Okay.
And how
Great Britain is usually like, they're like the Alabama of Europe, but sure.
The Alabama of Europe.
Britain is always a top example of how not to do things the European way.
All right, then let's talk about Great Britain.
Yeah, that's the plan. Isn't
Yeah.
that what I said?
Yeah, that's what we said.
Yeah.
Nolan, how do they do their elections?
Well, what happens is the Queen releases a series of crows. And whichever candidate receives the royal kiss of the crow becomes prime minister for the day.
Is that how Boris Johnson won?
That's how he thinks he won, anyway.
Oh, okay.
No, the British do a mixed member proportional vote where the candidates are decided upon based on hierarchy within their own parties.
Okay, and how does that work? They don't vote for candidates, they vote for parties?
I guess. Not, I mean, it's a mixed member proportional voting system. It's not too dissimilar from the thing you were describing with pizza toppings, Tim.
Okay, so all right, so let me ask this way then. Do the parties put up a slate of candidates?
Yes.
And then that slate is voted on by the people.
Yes.
So after the election, the parties get a percentage of the seats, I assume, and then they put the candidates in.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's why you wind up with coalition governments when nobody's able to secure a majority.
Right. Yeah, I was hearing about
mixed member is basically it's a 2-vote system. You vote for your candidate and then you vote for your party.
Okay. All right. That's what I was missing. Because doesn't Sweden currently have a problem where their prime minister is ousted and they have to form a new government?
I mean, that'll happen if somebody has a vote and the party does not get the majority.
Keep going.
Israel just had something similar happen where they were able to oust Netanyahu from power, but only by every other party being able to beat his party in elections. So his government fell because it didn't have the popularity, but the current Israeli government is made up of like 4 very different parties that have agreed to share power.
Yeah, I think there was something similar to that going on in Ireland too. They had a certain time frame to reform a government because
that's one of the issues with the mixed member proportional voting is sometimes governments can't be formed. Belgium didn't have a government for a long time because no party could secure a majority. And the parties that could didn't want to work with the other ones they needed.
Right.
So they actually created an award, and it's countries that have gone the longest without governments.
Oh,
and Belgium held the top spot for a long time. They got ousted by Iraq. Not surprising.
I see. Oh, man. That's funny. So the top parties in the UK are the Conservative and Unionist Party, the Labour Party, the Scottish National Party, the Liberal Democrats, and the Democratic Unionist Party. Those are like the top 5. And Boris Johnson is a member of the Conservative and Unionist Party. They have the most seats, I guess, in the House of Lords and the House of Commons.
The House of Lords is peerage. That doesn't get voted for.
I see.
House of Lords is a peerage. They are appointed for life.
Okay.
And that can be passed down through generations.
I see.
It's where you have your Lord of Sussex and Salisbury and all that nonsense.
Right.
Andrew Lloyd Webber is a member of the House of Lords.
Is that so?
Yes.
All right.
And he has that spot in the House of Lords for life.
They really are the Alabama of Europe.
I told you. I told you. The House of Lords does have a fair amount of power, but they are limited in how they can exercise it.
I see.
For instance, recently, and by recently, I mean within the last 8 years, under David Cameron, there was going to be some new laws passed, a new budget that was going to cut funding to unemployment and childcare and other tax breaks and things for those in the lower socioeconomic bracket across Britain. And the House of Lords, in one of the rare instances, actually vetoed the bill getting passed, saying it was too harsh on the lower classes.
Oh.
The House of Lords had to tell the British Conservative government the House of Lords. These are people who are appointed for life, answer to no one but themselves, and are usually landed gentry or the remnants thereof.
That sounds ridiculous.
And they told the Conservative government of Great Britain that they were being too harsh on the poor and they needed to go back to the drawing board with their tax plan.
Oh, man. So, God damn it. So, mixed member proportional, what are its weaknesses here?
Well, the obvious one is that at times you'll wind up with a prime minister or a head of government whose party may only have a 25 to 30% quote unquote majority among voters.
Now, is that because of, he'd be part of like a coalition?
Correct.
And then they'd agree on who would be prime minister?
Or a party will go, hey, we need at least 50% and we have 25. You with 15 and you with 10 are going to work for us, but we get to be prime minister and chancellor of the exchequer, which is their treasury secretary, essentially.
Okay.
And foreign office, and you'll get to have all these other spots in the cabinet.
So the pros are that it allows for many different parties. England has at least 10 political parties.
Yep.
Them and Ireland. I mean, Sinn Féin is in here. The Irish Social Democrats are in here. Like, there's so many. And there's even parties that don't have representation.
Yeah, but every now and again they get a member elected to Parliament.
Yeah. There's one party, let's see. They're called the Scottish Greens. And their only representation right now is in the Scottish Parliament.
Well, Scotland has its own parliament. So
right.
It's really kind of hard. Britain is also kind of a bad example because Britain is not Britain. It is the United Kingdom of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Yep.
Which is a kingdom that binds 3 or more nations together. So
yeah, there is a Welsh party. They're called the Plaid
Cymru. Don't try to read it.
I can't.
It's in Welsh and it's a nonsense language.
But they're for Welsh independence. So
but Wales has a degree of autonomy. They have an autonomous council that meets in Cardiff and decides local matters. The Scottish Parliament not only has a fair degree of authority over Scottish affairs, though they can't make separate international agreements, but they also run Scotland's healthcare system is separate from the rest of the British healthcare system.
Oh,
and
really?
it's actually better run.
But all right, so Great Britain has its own national healthcare system.
Yes.
And then Scotland has its own.
It's called the NHS Scotland.
Really?
Yeah. And it's better run and more efficient than the larger national British one.
All right.
Because the larger British one is, to put it mildly, a fucking mess. It was created in the post-war Britain where they needed the big centrally executed, top-down, bloated bureaucracy. Margaret Thatcher slashed its budget in the 80s and grossly underfunded it. Who was it? Tony Blair came in and created a system of quotas to try to make it as artificial quotas so it could compete as efficiently as an independent healthcare system, which didn't work at all.
So it's all fucked up.
And David Cameron did nothing except maybe try to cut the budget again.
I see.
Scotland cut away all that crap and centered theirs around a series of 12 major hospitals corresponding with the various districts within Scotland.
All right. I mean, that sounds efficient.
It was a more central, but it was a more decentralized bottom-up system.
I see.
It's the same thing they do in Germany and Austria, and it works way better, where the individual states of a place are responsible for providing health care for those, while funding and the mandate for the health care comes from the top.
So it would be kind of like how Connecticut has like its Husky healthcare system.
Or how, it's like, imagine if the healthcare, the state systems of Connecticut than Massachusetts have, because Massachusetts has a fairly extensive healthcare system. But they were public options. Anybody could get them. It didn't matter your income bracket. And funding for it was provided by tax rebates from the central government.
Okay. Connecticut tried to pass a public option, but it didn't make it this time.
Really? With Hartford being the capital. That's a shock.
I know.
You know Hartford's like the epicenter for insurance companies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Connecticut tried to pass a government option, but the Republicans were not about it, and some Democrats are not about it.
Right. Again, they have a large business class up there, a large business community that is based completely around
insurance
and healthcare. So that was never going to fly.
So let's move on to our final bit here. There was one other topic I wanted to talk about, and it's nonpartisan elections versus partisan elections.
Okay. Well, there's no such thing as nonpartisan elections in America anymore.
Well, there are, let me rephrase that, partisan ballots and nonpartisan ballots.
Everything is partisan now, Tim. We're in the end game now for partisanship. It's partisanship, brinksmanship, baby.
Louisiana and I think one or two other states have ballots where parties are not listed. It's just candidates. So you run on your own without a party behind you. I mean, you run with a party, but your party is not listed on the ballot.
That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life, because all it does is add an extra step between seeing the candidate and knowing what party they're for. Now, instead of them telling me, I have to go online and look it up.
Well, here's the secret, and I learned this in campaigning. When you're campaigning, you never tell them what party you're with unless they ask.
Okay. Yeah, because the minute you do, their mind's already made up about you.
Exactly.
So doing that on the ballot.
Some states have decided that instead of having candidates be with a party and having a voter's mind made up by that, they would just, Jim Bob, is running for whatever. There's no party there's no party next to his name.
And that, again, if the internet didn't work, that would be a great system.
Yeah. Because
then you go, Jim Bob is with what party? Oh, Democrats. Well, fuck it. I'm not voting Jim Bob.
But also I'm pretty sure it's Louisiana. They have more candidates on the ballot because they're not party specific people.
That seems dishonest in a way, doesn't it? Like, oh, we really like this guy. He got elected. Ha ha, I was a communist the whole time. You fools.
I believe that's how communism starts.
Isn't it?
So just remember.
With the French-speaking part of the country. Every time.
So that's just nonsense.
I mean, it seems a bit dishonest and disingenuous. Like, the person is running for their party.
Right. And I believe the idea behind it is saying that
I get
parties, parties don't come first.
Yeah, but they do.
They do. They do. And all the candidates, even though there's like 7 of them for whatever position, they're all either Democrats or Republicans. But they don't have to say that on the ballot. So it's like a grab bag of candidates.
Yeah, and that's great until we figure out what they're for. So
yeah.
Could you do me a favor?
What?
Can you bring up the last comment in the comments section on the thing? So this is from when we were talking about how the voting in the Soviet Union worked. I just want to point that out.
Oh, I mean, listen, the Soviet thing sounds really great in theory, but I can only imagine how American politics would fuck that up really hard.
Oh yeah, but like think about how bad elections and voting are in this country. When I present this option and you go, "Wow, actually, that doesn't sound half bad." Because for a few minutes you're sitting there and you're like, "Yeah, actually, that would be great." But then you stop and like 20 minutes later, after you think about like how voting goes in America, you usually go, "Wait a minute, no, that would be a fucking nightmare. Wait." But things are so bad that actually seemed like a good alternative for a bit.
All right, so I got a question for you. Do you know how voting works in China?
No.
No, you were never.
I was never a
talked about-
citizen.
Well, I know, but I mean, didn't you ever learn how they vote, how their voting system works?
No.
Really?
And I don't want to.
Okay, it's that kind of thing, huh?
There were. I mean, look, it's not a secret, and it's probably not all that dissimilar. So there's Chinese politics are a lot like Chinese provincial state lines. You know,
Okay.
if you can get a surface level understanding of how it works, but any more closer examination to the breakdown of those lines, it becomes almost impossible to follow. For instance, you can probably learn, like I have, all the names of all the provinces in China. Very simple, right? But once you start to break down how those states and those provinces are subdivided and what those regions are and what they are, and like how, well, I'm in this city. Well, yeah, but this city isn't really its own city. It's actually counted as part of this city. And this is over here. But that's closer to that city than I am. Why am I part of that and they're not? It just is. Like, it's 5,000 years of bureaucratic organization layered on top of each other. It's a communist system. There is only one party, but not really. There are multiple parties. However, they get to run only on the condition that they follow the Communist Party line on everything.
I see.
So you have the left wing of the Kuomintang, the Nationalist Party. You have the CDL, the Chinese Democratic League. You have other parties.
But they all have to fall in line.
But they all have to follow the Communist Party line. Now, how that works in their elections, I don't know. Because from what I understand of how the communist Soviet voting system works is you vote for your representative to their equivalency of the parliament, which is a House of Representatives, if you will. Then they elect members to the Central Committee, and the Central Committee elect members to the Politburo.
There's a lot of electing.
Yeah, but you notice it keeps getting by smaller and smaller groups.
I assume that the more you go up, the more power that group has.
Yes. Well, the Standing Committee and the Politburo are like the two highest levels. And then the only thing beyond that is like the Prime Minister is the highest ranking member of the Politburo, but he's second in command to the chairman of the Communist Party, who we keep calling the president for some reason, even though he's not even remotely the president.
I think that's just an American sort of language thing where anyone who's the head of a state is a president.
Oh, he's the president. No, he's the chairman of the Communist Party of China. But sure, we'll call him the president.
Yeah. President Xi, right?
Yeah, no, it's chairman. He is the chairman of the Communist Party. Or yeah, I think it's chairman. The Soviets use the term general secretary, but
it's all the same.
But in China, it is the chairman. Whoever is the chairman of the Communist Party, which is the governing body of the People's Republic of China.
So China does have a prime minister. He's just not the top guy.
No. They have a prime minister, but he's only a member of the Politburo.
I see.
I think he might be the leader of the Politburo, but the Politburo is still second tier to the chairman.
I see. Well, I think that's our Chinese politics lesson for the day.
Happy to be here.
Exactly. So I think that was fun. We talked about some different kinds of elections. We talked about what we could do better as a country. I would advocate for the automatic voter registration thing because a lot of a lot of voting policy is centered around whether or not you're registered and what kind of IDs you have to have. And wouldn't it just be nice if everyone was registered to vote who could vote?
Yeah, it would be.
It would solve a lot of problems, and honestly, it would fix a lot of campaigning because part of campaigning is getting people registered to vote, and it's a pain in the ass.
Well, don't worry. Georgia and Alabama and places like that are going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
To boot people out, to keep people from voting, so it won't be as complicated.
If everyone was registered to vote, you wouldn't have to worry about, oh, is this state or city or whatever purging its voter rolls because people haven't voted in a while. You would just be a voter. It wouldn't be a problem. That's my 2 cents. You got anything else before we go to promos?
No.
All right. We're gonna do, there we go. And then I gotta hit one more button.
Okay.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Damn it.
That's the wrong button. There we go.
Hi, I'm Nolan. I'm Tim's long-suffering co-host.
Keith was here for a bit, and then he left.
Yeah, I know. And I've outlasted Keith on this iteration. That's why I get the title long-suffering now. But when I'm not here doing this, I have my own podcast called In the Nerd. You can find us on Facebook. We're on Apple Podcast. We are going to be recording some new episodes soon, so that'll be fun. So look for that in the coming weeks. And In the Nerd Podcast. Check us out.
I listen to them. They are enjoyable.
Yeah, the last one we did, we were so drunk by the end of it. I went back and re-listened to it, not because I was like, that was a really good episode. Part of it because it was like, the fuck did we talk about by the end?
Drinking and podcasting.
You can hear the glasses clinking and the ice and stuff in the background.
They're two great things that go great together.
They really are.
All right, let's see. Wrong button again.
Damn it, Tim. Stop conditioning people.
There we go. Okay. Wait, what about this one? Yeah, fuck Ron DeSantis.
Yeah. I don't know who that is, but okay.
Governor of Florida. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
So, like I said at the beginning of the episode, if you would like to become a patron and support our show, you can go to patreon.com/SFTC, and you could be like Jenna, who is a producer, because she gives us lots of money to be a producer. And you too can be on a show like she's going to be. I believe Jenna's episode, I said, was going to be the 28th of July. So in 3 weeks.
Hooray!
And also you could do the other links there. You could follow us on Twitch. You could subscribe on YouTube and hit all the buttons on the YouTube, the follow and the subscribe and all that. And then like us on Facebook, give us a fun review. Give us any review. I don't care.
Yeah.
And comments and questions, and we'll take all of it. So for myself and Nolan, we'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 8 p.m. for another episode of Speaking from the Center.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
And I'm going to hit the button.